Hey, it's good to see you guys this morning. Glad you're worshiping with us. If you're watching online, thanks for worshiping with us online as well. It's a great day to be in the house of the Lord. It's a great day to be thankful. Am I right? This morning, as we did our morning prayer over our services, we were going around with our worship team and tech team and our prayer team and just thanking God for what he's done for us. It's a good day to be thankful. I love Thanksgiving. It's one of my favorite times of year. Growing up, my favorite thing to do for Thanksgiving was to go to our family's farm in Milry, Alabama. Anybody ever heard of Milry, Alabama? That's right. You know why? Less than 1,000 people live there. It is tiny. The only thing that is there is a gas station, which also is the best restaurant in town. They did a few years ago build a Dollar General, which was big news, huge news. They got a Dollar General, but every small town in Alabama has a Dollar General in them. But it was a big deal the Dollar General came to town. So my favorite place, though, in the whole world to spend Thanksgiving is Milry, Alabama. It's where our family farm is that my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents homesteaded way back when. And I love it because I love the feel, the fall with the leaves falling, the cool breeze during the day, going in the yard, throwing a football, eating turkey, way too many sides, way too many desserts. But the thing I love most about Thanksgiving at the family farm is it's a time to slow down. It's a time to kind of unplug. You don't even get good cell reception there. And the Wi-Fi, they have it, but it's not good Wi-Fi. And so you don't have a choice but to just kind of turn your pace down and invest extra time with friends, with family, with extended family, with friends that you thought were friends, but later on you find out they're family. We've lived there for a long time. It's a small town. I'm related to just about everybody. And I love it. And I don't know what your Thanksgiving plans or traditions are, but I hope for a second that you're going to be able to kind of unplug and unwind and slow down. Because this is what I know about us and our culture. We're really busy, aren't we? We're really busy. This week I've had a very, very busy week, kind of an abnormally busy week. One of those weeks that the days start early and they end very late. And it's for good reason, as most of you know, and Steve talked about, right? In February 25th, we're leaving this facility and we're going to go start meeting our Sunday morning services in Legend High School. And it's not because we feel like God is necessarily just leading us to be portable, because God's given us a big vision for the future. That we envision a facility that he's leading us to that faces our community, that is a place that people can feel at home. A place for people that welcomes or welcome, a 7-day-a-week facility for our community that serves as the home base for the ministries of Lighthouse Church. That's where we're going, but in order to get there, we know that we're going to have to take a step and go portable for a season. And because of that, because of all the things involved with that, can I be honest? My life is a little bit busier. This week, my life was a lot a bit busier. And I'm looking forward to some time where I'm gonna get to just unwind and calm down just a little bit. There's something in our culture, there's something in us about busyness that is this recurring theme that we seem to never get away from. Has anybody figured out how to end busyness yet? Anybody? Life is busy, then you die, right? I don't think this is a new problem, and I'm going to show you why here in just a few minutes, why I don't think it's a new problem. But before I get there, I want to talk about time for a second. Because time, and Chris, if you can just skip this and go to the first slide, right? Time is currency. I want us to wrestle with this concept today, that time is currency. Let me demonstrate, right? In my pocket right now, I got a $100 bill. Benjamin Franklin's on the front of this. It's a real one. I could see the watermark. He's actually on this twice because he's there and then he's also there. So if I were to come up to you, right, I'm standing in front of a group of people this morning. I'm holding a $100 bill. And I just say, hey, what should I do with this? What would you say? Give it. Thank you so much, Pam. That's exactly the answer I am looking for, right? Some people will go, that's $100. Well, you should give it to me. Because if you gave me $100, you wouldn't have $100, but I would have $100, and I don't have $100 right now. And if I had $100, I'd be a lot happier, I think. You may already know what you want to spend the $100 on if I gave it to you. I'm not giving you the $100. That's how I'm buying my Thanksgiving meal. Right? Here's what I'm trying to demonstrate. Right? If time is currency, then there are going to be people and situations outside of our control that want to determine how we spend our time. Some people may go, it's your time. Oh, no, that's my time now. Some of you have bosses that you're already busy. You're working on a lot of stuff, and you get that email going, hey, I need you to do this massive project also. And you're going, where am I going to get that time from? Somebody else wants to use your time. Advertisers, TV executives, movie studio producers, they all want your time. Because if they get your time, they also get your money. Or if you're watching TV, if they get your time, they get an advertiser's money. People want our time. And they want to spend our time. And they want to take up our time. And sometimes it's like, well, I just want a little bit of my own time back. Anybody else ever feel that? Is that just me? Now, if I also came to you and I said, instead of, hey, what should I do with this money? If I said instead, hey, what would be something wise? What would be a wise usage of this $100? What would you say? No, Larry. Pay off student loans. Pay off debt. That's a great one. What else? Invest it. Save it. What do you think, Parker? Spend it on a stuffy. If you need some warmth and comfort, that'd be one big stuffy. So my first service said groceries, and can I be honest? I cannot think of a better use of $100 than going down this Little Debbie snack aisle and buying all the Little Debbie Christmas tree cakes. What a wise investment. Hey, can I confess something to you today? I confessed this the first service, so I can't not say it. Last week, I got pretty vocal about decorating for Christmas early. And can I confess something? Like, is this a safe space? I understand that it's before Thanksgiving, but I put my Christmas tree up yesterday. I know. And so one, can I just explain? Like, I have said, like, I won't decorate for Christmas early unless there's a sign in the sky that will tell me. I live at the base of the rock in Castle Rock, and there's literally, they put a sign in the sky last night, a giant star. And so I'm sorry. I know I have failed you as a pastor, and I just want you to understand, like, there's no perfect people, not even pastors. And I know, like, if you could just find it in your hearts to forgive me, I am working on being better. There are people who are going to watch this online. I'm going to get texts later, right? Right, so way back on track, right? It's not just that people want your time. But sometimes we are forced with this understanding that if time is currency, there's wise investments of our time and there's unwise investments of our time. And here's what I know is that we value what we purposely invest our time in. Right? Sometimes there's non-purposeful investments in time. That's when we're scrolling on social media on our phones for hours on end. And we're like, where did that time go? That's a not purposeful investment. That's someone else stealing our time. But then there's things that we purposely spend our time on. That's why we go to loved ones' houses for holidays. Because one of the things that I loved about being at the family farm for Thanksgiving and unwinding there is it also gave me a time to spend time with my family. Growing up, it was my grandparents. Now it's my parents and siblings that I don't often get to spend time with. In fact, they're all going to the farm for Thanksgiving, and we're not going this year, and I'm pretty bummed about it. Because I know they're all going to be, and I want to spend my time with them because they're my family. And I value them, and I want to invest my time. Now, but I also value my own family, and so this week I'm going to spend my time investing in them. Jonah, most of you know Jonah. He's the one who screams and runs around sometimes. Jonah's asked me, like, Dad, this week, can you take me to breakfast at Waffle House? And I'm like, you know what? I love Waffle House, number one. And more than I love Waffle House, I love you. So absolutely. He wants a waffle. So you know what I'm going to do this week? I'm going to take my son to Waffle House. And as much as I love Waffle House, like I love him more and I want to spend time with him. I want to make that investment with him because I value him. What we purposely invest our time in shows what we value. Now, sometimes that doesn't mean that everything we value is everything that's supposed to be valued, because if I'm honest, I spend way too much time valuing sports than I should. And I'm not saying that's anybody else in the room, but if the conviction of the Holy Spirit is heavy upon you, again, the altar is open. You can come and confess those sins, lay down those 49er idols. I'm sorry, I didn't. Yeah, they did not do well this week. All right, we're going to get distracted and waste our time on this. See what I did there? See what I did there? All right. Here's the point, right? What we value, we invest our time in. And I think there's a level that we should elevate what we value. But it's hard when we live in a culture where we feel this sense of urgency, constant urgency, but we often are frustrated with a lack of meaning. Put another way, we are overwhelmingly busy and chronically unsatisfied. We're always looking for something else to fill our time because maybe, just maybe, that will be the thing. Maybe this next hobby will be the thing. Maybe this next boyfriend or girlfriend will be the thing. Maybe this next year will be the year that everything gets better. But we find ourselves in this sense of continual busyness and continual unsatisfaction. There's good news. Well, I say it's good news. It may not be good news. It's not new news. This is not a new condition. This is an existing condition that goes all the way back to the fall, to the sin of Adam and Eve. Look with me in Genesis chapter 3, verse 16 and 19. In this scenario, Adam and Eve have already sinned, and this is God cursing them. To the woman, he said, I will surely multiply your pain in childbearing. In pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be contrary to your husband's. There's chronic unsatisfaction there. But he shall rule over you. And Adam, he said, because you have listened to the voice of your wife and have eaten of the tree which I have commanded you. To be clear, the sin wasn't listening to the voice of your wife. That's a good thing to do, men. The sin here was listening to the bad thing to do, right? Because you've eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, you shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground because of you. In pain you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles it shall bring forth to you. And you shall eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your face you shall eat bread till you return to the ground. For out of it you were taken. For you are dust, and to dust you shall return. God says, you want to eat? Let me tell you, there's this stuff called bread, and the only way you're going to be able to get it is by working hard or by coming to Lighthouse's Thanksgiving lunch, because we always have so much bread. Right? To eat, Adam, you're going to have to work. You know where unsatisfaction with time spent as a job comes from? This, Genesis 3, the beginning of time. You're going to have to work a job, Adam, and it's going to be hard just so you could get food. You're going to be unsatisfied. You're going to be busy just to eat. But it's not just Adam and Eve. In 1 Samuel 18, we see this picture of King Saul. This is right after David has slain Goliath. And there's a stark picture that this passage presents to us. So David has killed Goliath. Goliath is done. He's toast. He's been hit by a rock. He's been heads chopped off. The Philistine army has been dispersed. So King Saul should be happy, right? The threatening, invading army is gone. As they were coming home, when David returned from striking down the Philistine, the women came out of the cities of Israel singing and dancing to meet King Saul with tambourines and songs of joy and with musical instruments. And the women sang to one another as they celebrated. And they sang this, Saul has struck down his thousands and David his 10,000s. And Saul was very angry. And this saying displeased him. And he said, they have ascribed to David 10,000s, and to me they've ascribed thousands. And what more can we have but the kingdom? What more can he have but the kingdom? Which, by the way, foreshadowing, he does get the kingdom, all of it. What are you talking about? Like they're singing a song. And look at this. And Saul eyed David from that day on. You know what that means? The king of Israel, who just had an invading army gone, who should be happy, he's consumed, and he can only see his jealousy for one person, for a shepherd boy. And it consumes him, and it takes his time. Because jealousy never takes our time, does it? This morning, we're moving tables from the front to the back to make sure we have space. And I made the comment to someone who's helping me. I was like, if like one guy was carrying one table, the next guy would go, yeah, I got to take 2 tables. And if the guy was taking 2 tables, and the next guy would go, well, I should probably take 3 tables. And if the next guy was carrying 3 tables, the next guy would be like, I guess I'm taking 4. Because there's something in us that we get jealous of something that someone else does, and it consumes our thoughts. It consumes our mind. And if you're like, that's not me, God bless you. Because sometimes I get jealous. And then I find that I waste my time currency focusing on something that means nothing to me. Saul was the king of an entire kingdom, and his jealousy for one man was his Achilles heel and led to his downfall. The son of King David is a man named Solomon. Solomon was one of the wisest men to ever live. And he wrote a book called Ecclesiastes. It's all about this concept of toil or being busy, of spending your time and your energy on something. And in Ecclesiastes, we see him talk about all of the different things that he has tried to satisfy himself with. This is what it says in Ecclesiastes chapter 2. I said in my heart, come now, I will test you with pleasures. Enjoy yourself. But behold, this also was vanity. I said, laughter, it is mad, and pleasure, what use is it? I searched with my heart how to cheer my body with wine, my heart still guiding me with wisdom, and how to lay hold on folly, till I might see what was good for the children of men to do under heaven during the few days of their life. Right? I searched to try to find what is worth investing our time in, what is good. How do we find this? How do we find what is worthy? And then he lists all the things that he tried, right? I made great works. I built houses and planted vineyards for myself. I made myself gardens and parks and planted in them all kinds of fruit trees. I made myself pools from which to water the forest of growing trees. I bought male and female slaves and had slaves who were born in my house. I also had great possessions of herds and flocks, more than any who had been before me in Jerusalem. I also gathered for myself silver and gold, the treasure of kings and provinces. I got singers, both men and women, and many concubines, the delight of the sons of man. And so I had become great and surpassed all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me, and whatever my eye desire, I did not keep from them. I kept my heart from no pleasure, for my heart found pleasure in all my toil, and this was my reward for my toil. So he's saying, I tried everything. Everything under the sun, I did not deny myself. Money, sex, power, food, pleasures, whatever I could find. I didn't deny myself any of this. And then in verse 11, then I considered all that my hand had done and the toil I had expended in doing it. And behold, all was vanity and a striving after the wind. And there was nothing to be gained under the sun. He's saying it's all pointless. Vanity, vanity. All is vanity. So why is this man of the world saying, I busied myself with all of it, everything. I tried it. And nothing satisfied me. When we feel constantly busy but also lacking significance, it indicates that we might need to shift our thinking about how we spend our time. And don't mishear me, because what I'm not saying is we need to shift how we spend our time. I think for some of you, you may need to shift how you spend your time, but it can't start there. It has to start with how we understand how we spend our time. It has to start with our understanding of our time currency. How do we spend our time? And what do we think about how we spend our time? Let me help you understand this more, right? In Luke chapter 10, there's a passage about two sisters named Mary and Martha. If you've been at church for a while, you've certainly heard the story of Mary and Martha. It says, now, as they went on their way, Jesus entered a village. Most likely it was the village of Bethany. It was right outside Jerusalem. And a woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary. Right? Mary and Martha and their brother Lazarus would become very close friends with Jesus. But I think this is pretty early in their relationship because of how the text talks about it. And when Jesus visits Mary and Martha, it says that Mary sat at the Lord's feet and listened to his teaching. So Jesus, if he was here, right in front of us, right, I would hope our response would be similar to Mary. Like, I would want to hear what Jesus had to say, and I would be right as close to him as I could get. I don't like crowds. I don't even like going to concerts anymore because there's way too many people there. But if Jesus was here, I'm fighting the crowd to get to Jesus because I want to hear what Jesus has to say. But Martha, it says, was distracted, because we never get distracted. To be clear, I've gotten distracted like 4 times already in this sermon. Martha was distracted with much serving. It is the week of Thanksgiving. There's a lot of serving that goes on this week. So on a side note, a purposeful side note, not a distracted one, purposeful side note, in the midst of serving this week, don't miss who you're serving and who you're investing your time in. Because Martha missed it. She went to Jesus and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her to help me. How many people have multiple children of similar ages? You will know this phrase. Maybe a little different. My brother's not helping. Tell him to help me. She didn't pick up her toys. It's her fault they're here. Tell her to help. This is an age-old problem that even goes all the way back to Jesus' time with adult women who Martha's going, my sister's not helping, tell her to help me. And I love Jesus' answer to this. Oh, Martha, Martha. He like doubles it. Martha, Martha. So like when you get home, your kids are complaining, double their name. Oh, Jonah, Jonah. Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things. You are overwhelmingly busy and chronically unsatisfied. But one thing is necessary. Mary has chosen the good portion, which will not be taken away from her. See, Martha missed the one thing. While Mary is at the feet of Jesus, Mary's attention's on Jesus. You know who Martha's attention was on? Mary. Not Jesus. Martha got distracted. It even tells us she was distracted. I want to do a thought experiment this morning. You guys up for a thought experiment? Okay. I want you right now. Most of us have smartphones in our pocket. Mine's right here in my pocket. I want you right now. Don't open it. Don't pick it out. We will hear it in a second. I want you to think about what is the app on the bottom right-hand corner of your phone, like your right-hand thumb app. Like, what is that app? Once you think it's in your mind, like, everybody got it? Think you know what it is? Okay. If you don't, that's okay. Take a wild guess, right? Now, I want you to pull out your phone and look and check and see if you were right. Oh, that's not what I thought. Actually, yeah, but I didn't check first service because a kid had my phone, and I was wrong with what I told first service was my bottom right hand app. Okay. All right, how many people were right? You knew what it was. Okay. A lot of people, half. How many people were wrong? How many people, like me, did not know what it was? Okay. Put your hands down. Everyone checked to make sure they were correct, right? So here's the challenge. Here's the thought experiment. Every single one of our phones on the lock screen has a clock on it. What is the exact time? Because we all just looked at it. Okay, a few of you. How many people had no idea? I didn't. You know why? It's because our focus wasn't on the clock. It was on finding out what the app was. How many times do I unlock my phone and never look at that clock? All the time. Martha's problem was not her task. It was her attention. Earnestly, I believe that Martha could have spent every second serving Jesus, but if she was focused on Jesus, on the one thing, it wouldn't have mattered. Mary, it wasn't what Mary was doing, it's who Mary was focused on. If God's given you the gift of serving, that's great. Don't get distracted by the serving that you miss who you're serving. As a pastor, a big portion of my job is recruiting, training, retaining volunteers. It's what I do, right? This morning, again, I mentioned this earlier, right? This morning, the thing I am most thankful for are you who serve our church every single week, who make it possible to have church for people at Lighthouse. Like, you are who I am grateful for, so grateful for this morning. But it is the job. It is my job. I get actually paid for it, but more than that, I'm called to this. To lead a church that has people who are serving the kingdom of God. And so as someone, right, I'm not immune to this. I see this all the time, right? I know and I see when people get burned out. And I've seen it all through my ministry. I've seen people get burned out by volunteering at church, and sometimes they'll even leave the church because they're so burned out on volunteering. But you know why I believe people get burned out in church? It's because the job of a shepherd or a pastor or a leader is to help people remember that the time that we spend doing tasks for kids, for family meals, for greeting at the door, whatever, isn't really about the task, it's about God. Here's what I mean by that, right? Who's ever serving in children's ministry this morning? I don't want someone serving in kids ministry because they love kids. I want someone serving in kids ministry because they love Jesus and they want kids to love Jesus too. They may also love kids, but the most important thing for volunteering in any position is that people recognize that the time they give isn't to me, it's not to Lighthouse, it's first and foremost to God. When we remember we are investing time for God's purpose, our tasks are more valuable for God's people. And I think that people get burned out when we miss the fact that it's not about the task, it's about God. We're about to go into a season where we need help. I need more people to help with this. In fact, the whole point of this sermon is that the whole point of this series is that we're looking at how do we prepare ourselves to see God do wonders among us. Last week we talked about loving our community, right? It's actually, if you follow week to week or you came to our home team meeting, we spell the acronym LIGHT, right? Last week we talked about loving our community. Today we're talking about investing our time. But I think it is vitally important that we remember it's got to be God's purpose, not ours. Are we going to need help? Are we going to need people to volunteer their time? Absolutely. We can't do it without you. But please, earnestly, listen to me, hear me. I don't want you to invest your time because I'm on a stage asking for it. I want you to invest your time because you recognize that it's not about me. It's not even about the church. It's about God and what He's called us to. Romans 8:5-7 says, "For those who live according to the flesh set their minds on the things of the flesh." If I'm parsing this into time currency understanding, right? When you think that your time is all about what you want to do and what you have decided to do, right? That's spending time on the things of the flesh. But those who live according to the Spirit set their mind on the things of the Spirit. If our understanding is first that our time is God's time, it changes things. It changes our understanding. For to set the mind on the flesh is death, but to set the mind on the Spirit is life and peace. For the mind that is set on the flesh is hostile to God, for it does not submit to God's law. Indeed, it cannot. Let me give you a very basic illustration of this. Anytime I wake up and I go, man, I don't really want to do my quiet time today, that is me allowing my flesh to determine my time. It's saying this is my time. It's not saying it's God's time. Our time is a tool we can use for God's kingdom. And it should impact how we spend our hours and minutes. Hear me, I'm not saying quit your job just so you can volunteer at Lighthouse Church. I'm not saying you can't do anything fun. I'm challenging you to question whose time you're spending. Is it yours or is it God's? Colossians 3:23 gives us some clarity on this. Whatever you do, say whatever. What do you think that means? Whatever you do, work at it heartily with all your heart, as for the Lord and not for men. This includes going to that meeting every Tuesday afternoon that you hate going to. This includes going to the school for the 30th time in the same day. Because for some reason, if you have 4 kids at the same school, like drop-offs are all at different times, and so are pickups. How do we do that like we're working for God and not for men? It's by recognizing that it's not our time, it's God's time that we have an opportunity to use. A few weeks ago, we did something, we had a Tuesday night workshop called Faith in the Workplace, because we wanted you to understand, right, that we can be Christians where we are. We don't have to hang our Christian hat up at home and then put our work hat on and go to work. If we recognize that our time, all of our time is God's time, it should impact how we live and how we spend our time. I believe that to see God do wonders among us, we're going to have to love our community and invest our time. And I want to see God do wonders among us. Does anybody else want to see that? Just me? Like, I want to see God do incredible things through this church and in our community. I want to see the miraculous. I want to see lives changed. I want to see people who are so far from God, they've never even heard of him, come to faith in Jesus. I want to see God do wonders among us, but I believe we're going to have to love our community and invest our time. And that doesn't mean that the investment of time all has to be here at Lighthouse Church. The thing that I believe earnestly, first and foremost, is that we've got to ask God, hey, is this my time or is this your time? How am I investing this time? I'm not asking you to quit anything. Some people hear that and they go, well, I guess I got to quit my job and move to Africa and become a missionary. And hear me, if God's calling you to that, we'll support you as a missionary. But maybe instead of quitting anything, you just need to start reclaiming some things. Instead of looking at it as busy work, you start looking at it as opportunity to love. A few weeks ago, we gave away shirts. Now we're selling them for pretty cheap, $5 for a long sleeve t-shirt. That's a great deal. That says, we love this town. Investing our time and reclaiming some of that time for God, maybe you should be taking one of those shirts and wearing it when we go to Christmas tree lighting on Friday at O'Brien Park. Maybe investing our time means, hey, you know what? We're going to start, as we drive by Legend High School, we're going to start praying because God is literally giving us an opportunity to have church in a mission field. Maybe investing our time is when we walk into King Supers, praying and asking God, hey, God, show me who needs prayer today. And us having the courage to go ask somebody, hey, can I pray for you? If we all started doing that, if the people just at Lighthouse Church started doing that, we walked into King Supers, I guarantee you we'd see revival. How are you spending your time? What does your time currency look like? How is your investment? There's going to be plenty of opportunities to serve Lighthouse. But hear me, and I earnestly say this. I never want you to serve because I'm asking. I need you to serve because of God's calling. And if you're overwhelmingly busy and chronically unsatisfied, it should immediately prompt you to go, okay, is this my time or is it God's time? And here's the hard part. You may pray and go, hey, God, this is your time. I've been claiming it and I need to give that back to you. And he may ask you to quit something. He may say you need to sacrifice something. But I promise you, if he does, and that's a conversation between you and God, not you and me, right? If he does, then it's because he has greater things for you and greater opportunities for you to invest your time in. You know, it's interesting because this week we get to slow down, but next week it's like we've got to like put Red Bull in the tank and like fuel up because it's go, go, go. I love that like Thanksgiving, like the slow, easy, thankful holiday where we eat way too much, ignore that gluttony is a sin, and watch football on TV, and go around the table and say what we're thankful for. It ends with literally a mad dash down shopping aisles to beat someone out or up to get that one thing for a cheap price. It's like it initiates us into the craziest time of the year so that we could have just another 1 day or 2 days to calm down. I want to see God do wonders. And I think it's got to start with us recognizing that it can't be our time. It's got to be God's time. Here's the thing. This is going to look different for me than it is for you. It's going to look different for each of us individually. It's got to be a personal conversation. Like God, it's got to be the personal understanding that if we give God our time, that means something different for me than my neighbor. And that's okay. I'm not saying there's not going to ever be any overlap. I think there is overlap. That's why we're all in a church community together. But it may be different things. But it starts with you going to God and go, hey, I have stolen this. I've taken this time and I need to give it back to you. How can you use my time? What does that look like? Do you know how much, on average, how much time a doctor spends with each patient? 5 minutes, like that's kind of what I thought, 5 minutes. I was actually surprised to learn that, well, when they did a study about 10 years ago, it was somewhere between 16 and 18 minutes. A study last year came out that said it was 13 to 16. Or even a more recent study says it's now 10 or less. So we actually see a decline in the amount of time doctors are spending with patients. And I think we've all felt this, haven't we? And we've all, had those moments we don't feel good. We drive to the doctor's office. We go in. We sign the piece of paper. We sit down in the waiting room. Like we just sit there and wait. Maybe we touch the magazines that all the other sick people have touched. Yeah, I know. Those are gross. Literally make me nauseous just looking at them, right? But then like the nurse comes out and she's got her clipboard and you're thinking, well, maybe she's going to call my name. And then she doesn't. So you sit and wait longer and then another nurse comes out and maybe she's going to call your name and doesn't. And then finally someone calls your name. You're like, all right, this is it. They finally call my name. I get to go back, see the doctor. And they put you in another room where you also wait. And then someone knocks at the door and you're like, this is it. This is the doctor. And it's not. It's another nurse who wants you to pee in a cup. And you're like, okay, well, good, because I've waited so long, I do have to go to the bathroom. And finally, like, after waiting and waiting and waiting, the doctor comes in, spends less than 10 minutes with you just to give you a magic piece of paper that's got some instructions for a pharmacy to give you medicine on it, right? That's what we need. That's what we want. We leave the doctor's office. Actually, the doctor leaves first. Then we wait again for the nurse to come back in to give us our prescription and instructions. Then we leave. We go and pay a lot of money. We walk to our car. And sometimes it takes longer to walk from the office to the car than you spent with the doctor. And it's like we spent so much time, sometimes we even get frustrated with how long we have to wait at the doctor's office just to see a doctor for a few minutes. But we do it because it's the only way to get the prescription that makes us feel better. And here's the deal. I know doctors are busy. I know they see a lot of patients. And I know this is probably way an over-exaggeration. If you're a doctor or know a doctor, right, thank you for what you do. Like, I know it's hard. But sometimes it's like, man, like, that was a lot of time that I just spent at the doctor's office. Most of you know that 3 years ago, my family and I began a journey with our third son, James, and he got diagnosed with epilepsy. And I remember 3 years ago, after, this kind of whirlwind, we're scared. We don't know what's going to happen. We've been to hospitals and we've had brain scans, MRIs. Like it's a pretty frightening season for us as parents. And we have this first appointment with his neurologist. And because of, pandemic protocols, we had to do a video call with him. But I remember this appointment. And I remember, we wait for a few minutes in kind of the digital waiting room, and then he comes on the screen. His name's Dr. Ross. He's a neurologist. He's an incredible doctor. And it's like he had nowhere else in the world to be. And he sat there with us. He explained to us what's going on, talked to us about options, asked if we had any questions, answered our questions, answered more questions, let James ask questions. His question was, can I ride roller coasters? Which Dr. Ross's response is, sure, if you take me with you. Great response. We spent an hour and 20 minutes with his doctor, who even when he was leaving, he was like, are you sure you don't need anything else? You're sure you don't have any more questions? And it was so different than most of my experiences with doctors. But I felt that my time was valued. I felt my doctor valued my son, or my son's doctor valued him. And it was reassuring to me. And again, I'm not trying to talk bad about other doctors. I know they're busy. Like, they have to see a lot of sick people. But on the one experience I had where it just felt like I had all the time in the world, it made me feel more valuable. It made me feel like my son was more valuable to this doctor. What would it look like if we approached our relationships like that? What would it look like if we approached our interactions? And here's the hard thing. There's been many times I've been to lunch or coffee with many people in this room where I've gone, hey, I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to go. I've got another meeting. And the truth is, we're going to have other meetings. We're going to have the next thing. But when we are with someone, they need to feel that we value them. When we interact, when we love our community, it needs to feel, the men and women in our community need to feel like they are loved and that they are valued. And sometimes we may have to go, hey, I'm so sorry. I've got another meeting to go to. But when we're with someone, we shouldn't be preoccupied by the next meeting. We should be present for the moment. Recognizing that the people God has in front of us is who God has in front of us for the moment. And by recognizing that, we're serving the one, where our focus is on the one thing. How are you spending your time? How are you investing your time? And more importantly, how are you recognizing your time? Is it yours or is it God's? Are you making that investment of time to see what God can do? Or are you living in the cycle of being overwhelmingly busy and chronically unsatisfied and going, I got to do something different? Let me encourage you this morning. You can do something different. But it starts with your conversation with God going, hey, what do I need to give to you? Is it all about me? Is it all about mine? Or am I giving it to you? Let's pray. Father, I thank you in a season where we are thankful and grateful. We do take a moment just to give you gratitude for what you've given us, for the time that you have given us. I want to do you a favor. I want to do a favor, or I want you to do me a favor this morning. Because I want to pray for you if this is something you're struggling with. If this is you, I'm going to ask if you wouldn't mind being so bold to raise your hand. If you just feel like you're so busy and it's just meaningless, would you raise your hand? I just want to pray for you. Thank you. I see you. Thank you. I see you. Thank you. I see you. I see you. Even watching online, if that's you, I want to pray for you too. It is easy to get in the cycle of busyness. It is easy to let others spend our time currency. But I think it's time that we reevaluate whose time it is. So, Father, for those of us, including me, who are in those moments of overwhelming busyness, I pray you help us reorient our understanding. That it's about the one thing, it's about you. Let us not be distracted like Martha. Let us remember that our time, Lord, is a gift from you. Let us use that time. Let us live out Colossians 3:23. Then whatever we do, let us work with all of our hearts like we're working for you and not for men. Give us the courage to sacrifice the things that we need to sacrifice. Give us the courage to step into valuing and loving our community with the time that you've given us, not for our sake, but for your sake. Bless us. It's in Jesus' name we pray.